Well, Chick Corea has just passed. A friend of mine sent me a message. Couldn't believe it. 79-year-old Chick Corea. Rare form of cancer, only discovered recently, which is sometimes a blessing for a crisis like that, to just catch a cab onto the next dimension. Chick was a great musician, wonderful person, fascinating creator. Great to talk to him. I spoke with him in some interviews and personally at clubs, concerts a number of times. I was very lucky to hear him live. I think the first time I heard him live was in 69 or 70 with Miles at the Fillmore, the first one with Wayne and Dave Holland and Jack DeJohnette. And Wayne was still in the band then. Then I guess about a year later, 18 months later, I was at the Miles at Fillmore concert. The 4 nights where it was a double bill. Miles opened for Laura Nero. And in between those 2 appearances, Miles had released In a Silent Way. And I think Bitches Brew, I'm not sure if Bitches Brew had come out by that point. Probably it had. But going to see Miles, we weren't quite sure what Miles was going to do. And I'll never forget that night, because the curtain went up and out came Keith Jarrett on one side of the stage playing the Farfisa electric organ. And then on the other side of the stage, we had Chick on Fender Rhodes electric piano, along with Jack DeJohnette, Dave Holland, Airto, and now Steve Grossman on soprano saxophone mostly that night. And they played about an hour-long set, which they edited down on the recording. The LP was 4 sides, each of the 4 nights, but it was edited down. The music totally blew me away. I mean, I left. Although Laura Nero was a fantastic performer, I really wanted to see her. Just didn't want to do that. Couldn't do that. That was it. That's it. And then the next time I saw Chick after that was another memorable night. I guess it was about a year later, maybe. Year and a half later. It was at the Cafe A Go-Go. No, Miles was at the Vanguard. Hold on a second. This is a double bill that night. First of all, we saw at the Cafe A Go-Go the Miles' next band with Gary Bartz and Michael Henderson and Keith Jarrett and Jack DeJohnette and Airto as well. And they were playing like a much more funkier thing. Michael Henderson coming out of Stevie Wonder. It was different. I think Mtume was on percussion as well. And that was especially mind-boggling because Richard Pryor opened the show that night. Wow. And then also we dropped some acid that night. That made it particularly memorable. Then we walked uptown to the Village Vanguard. That night was the debut of Chick's new band, Circle. It was a cooperative group with Anthony Braxton and Dave Holland and Barry Altschul. And they were playing music on the complete opposite side of the musical spectrum. I mean, it was really a phenomenal night of music. And Chick was great. I mean, it was just a different thing completely. Then, a year later, maybe 2 years later, he had formed the band, the original incarnation of Return to Forever, with Airto on trap drums that night, Flora Purim on vocals, and Joe Farrell on tenor. And that was at the Scientology Center on 32nd Street in New York. And that was the beginnings of the Return to Forever. A lot of samba, mostly electric piano, once again, just phenomenal that night. And I've some a number of times after that, but those are the ones, the early ones that really started out. So I spoke to him that night at, not the night I took acid, but I went back a second time to the Vanguard, and I talked to him between sets, and he was into Scientology. He was telling me about it. At that time, Scientology, I guess it was like 72, something like that. 73, 72. Scientology wasn't the monster that it is now. I don't know what it is now, but I know Chick was a Scientologist the rest of his life, so obviously it had a positive effect on him. But in terms of the bureaucracy organization, I really don't know. I haven't heard very many positive things. And then when I started writing, I did an interview with Chick for Downbeat. Was it for Downbeat? No, it was for Omni Magazine, which is a science magazine, in 1979, about the future of keyboards and technology. It was like a dual article with Chick and Herbie, where I interviewed both of them, not at the same time. That was fun. And then one more thing. It was 1994, 1995, when I was working with Jazz Central Station, and we were down at the IAJE Jazz Conference. Jazz Central Station at that time had just jumped off. It was the first major jazz website. There was a lot of money behind it. It was the beginning of the .com thing. It was an exciting era, all kinds of things happening. I made a lot of money. That was nice. But the technology was new. It was a different internet, 25 years ago. It really was. There was no video, certainly. Audio was fair, not great. But we did a live chat with Chick via text from the IAJE conference. It was a huge jazz conference that happened once a year until the organization ran amok. 20,000 people showed up, and it was great. And it was in its later years, it was tied to the jazz industry, so there was a lot of money there. It was in New York or LA, a lot of performances, record labels were still in business then. That was really popping thing. Anyway, we were down in Atlanta, and we did a chat with Chick, where it was just a text chat, where he was supposed to sit next to me and answer questions from people. It was a sizable audience at the beginning there, because it was really the first major jazz website out there. And he was late. The plane was late. So he called me when he arrived, which was like 2 minutes before the thing was supposed to start. And he talked to me for a little while from the payphone in the airport. And then when his baggage came, his manager at the time, Ron Moss, who ended up playing trombone with Chick in a version of Return to Forever. I think it was before that, I'm not sure. He had an early cell phone. It was really big and huge, and they got in the car, and here I am. Chick is like on the phone, he's relaying the answers to me, and I'm typing them in as if he's there. And finally, like 25 minutes into the thing, he arrives at the room and he sits down and he completes the chat. That was fun. So I'm really sorry Chick left, kind of unexpectedly. But this is life. We never quite know what's around the next corner. And sometimes it ain't so good. But I'm really glad that Chick Corea is in my world and in this world. I think he made a lot of people's lives better. And his music, which encompassed many different things. It wasn't one thing with Chick Corea. That's one thing about some of the really most creative musicians. They changed their music during their lifetimes. Chick did that. I mean, he was a monster pianist, very unique. I don't say very unique, I hate that word, it's overused, but his own thing completely from the beginning. I think the first time I heard him on recording was a Herbie Mann, Coming Home Baby, live at Newport in 1965. I don't think he soloed on that. It was one of those incredible things where Herbie Mann took like 35 choruses or something like that. Newport was the home of extended choruses. Paul Gonsalves took it was a 29 chorus solo on Crescendo and Decrescendo in Blue, Duke Ellington, 1958, 57. Anyway, Chick Corea, we love you. Blessings to your family. Thank you for stopping by. We'll be listening to your music. And also, Chick, thank you for what you did in the past year. At the beginning of the pandemic, Chick did a series of live studio concerts, 45 minutes an hour, almost every day for months. I mean, that was just phenomenal. I mean, and it was really well produced, good audio, good video. Those were great. I'm sure they're archived someplace on his website. And then in the past year, he stepped up his education thing and did like live workshops and a lot of videos. And so there's a lot to be learned from Chick Corea as well. And my condolences to his family, to his friends. Chick, a life well lived. See you in the next dimension.